watching the It's Her Time podcast with Cody and Jess.
Every woman deserves to have a health span that matches her lifespan. In midlife, you get a second chance to change course if you need to and give your body what it needs to thrive. Herthrive is what I'm going to be talking about today, and it was born from a crusade that I've been on for the last 5 years to learn as much as I can about this transitional time in every woman's life known as menopause. I want to know and then also to show what's truly possible as we grow older. I'm almost 50. And I'm definitely knocking on menopause's door. And my mission is to transform the popular perception of menopause from one of dread to what it truly can be, the most empowering and pleasurable phase of a woman's life. But before we get into this conversation, let's pop on over to Mixers Girls Say.
This is a fun Mixers Girls Say. Tell us your best or funniest doctor's office visits.
This is good.
I always love these. Yeah. Okay. Oh, this is actually sweet for the first one. My OB cried with me at my 2-week post-miscarriage visit.
Aww.
Her empathy and kindness was so sweet. I love that.
Yeah.
That's so sweet. I'm sorry for the miscarriage. Obviously, I feel like it's nice that her doctor slowed down and saw her individual experience as something so hard to go through, because I think sometimes there's been the other experience where doctors are like,
more
sorry,
clinical.
I have to go. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We love doctors like that are just human and just feel with you and feel invested in your health and happiness. I just think that's amazing.
Yeah. My last doctor didn't know my son was breech. I switched. My next son was born without a C-section. Huh. So her doctor was able to,
even though the
baby was
breech
before.
Okay.
Maybe I don't understand.
I didn't understand that one so much, but she was proud of that doctor. He figured it out.
Gender reveal appointment. I had told my doctor I didn't want to know the gender so we could have a party after. First thing my doctor said was, "Look, there's Mr. Pee-Pee." You're like,
shoot.
Yeah. Okay, I've fallen asleep getting my teeth cleaned.
That's good, actually.
I was getting a facial a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I fell asleep and jolted when I woke up.
Yeah.
But it was nice and relaxing. So
a lot of times dentist appointments can be kind of full of anxiety too. So that's a good sign that you were so relaxed.
Yeah.
Maybe you took something ahead of time.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. Maybe some gas. I don't know. But that's good.
This is funny. Thought I was having a heart attack, rushed to urgent care. It was just heartburn, but the doctor was still so nice.
Oh my goodness. That is so, see, things like that when you're just like, but good to just go get it checked, even if it could just be heartburn.
Exactly.
Right? Because things like that are scary.
Well, we're glad that a lot of you have had positive experiences with your doctors, and now we'll get into the episode.
Yay.
Mixers is a company made for women by women. Each of our products have been carefully and lovingly crafted to support you in all stages of your life, providing you with the optimal health you deserve. Each ingredient we handpick is 100% all natural, backed by science, and chosen specifically to better your life physically, mentally, and hormonally. Each product empowers your body to take charge of its monthly hormonal shift and flows, empowering you to live life to the fullest. Let Mixers take care of your needs from sunup to sundown, and you take care of the rest. Check us out at mixers.com, MIXHERS.
All right. Well, last week we did a podcast episode with Dr. Karen Eilber, and you ladies had a lot to say about it, which I loved because I loved that episode and the fire that it's lit under all of us. Many of you thought that menopause was the end and that it all goes downhill once we hit that stage of our life. And why do we think that? That's what I kind of want to talk about today, because there's not a lot of education about menopause out there that is truly helpful. In fact, it's actually been censored on Facebook to talk about menopause because it's too sexual. And I've got way more to say about all of that in just a minute. I know that I'm not the only one that's out there that's seeking answers and solutions. So I'm really excited to do this episode and to talk to you girls like I would with my clients or with my best friends or even with my daughter, because it's something that we do need to have more conversation about, because a lot of us don't know a lot about menopause. And why is that? So I'm going to share a couple of stats that I think that were fascinating and alarming and all kinds of things. But I thought you guys would be interested in knowing some of these stats too. And it might help to explain why we don't know much about menopause. First of all, did you know that only 2% of all women that go through menopause don't experience debilitating symptoms? That's crazy. And the most common symptoms that are associated with menopause are things like menstrual irregularity, hot flashes. Actually, 70% of women say that's the worst symptom that they face. But things like joint pain, we wouldn't think that, depression and anxiety, heart palpitations, vaginal dryness, and low libido. Speaking of low libido, it's a thing that's super common to both men and women as we enter this phase of life. But I want you girls to listen to how the symptom is handled when it comes to men versus women. Remember the stat that only 2% of women don't experience terrible symptoms? That means that 98% of us do experience menstrual irregularity, hot flashes, joint pain, depression, anxiety, heart palpitations, vaginal dryness, and low libido, right? Did you know that only 18% of men experience low libido, which is pretty much the only symptom that they have to deal with? Yet, think of all the advertising that is done about erectile dysfunction. It's on every sports channel, it's on every news channel, it's on billboards driving down the freeway, and doctors are much more likely to talk about this issue with men. In fact, the Department of Defense in a 4-year period of time spent $294 million in erectile dysfunction drugs. And I'm not saying that they shouldn't address it. What I'm saying is that women are just told that all of the suffering is just how it is, that it's totally normal. And doctors are not educated about menopause unless they're like Dr. Karen Eilber, who took an extra certification course to be a certified menopause practitioner. And I just think, doesn't this all seem so familiar to us? It doesn't matter what age we are at or what stage of life we're in. Women are not created to suffer, and there are reasons that we are experiencing debilitating symptoms. So, like I said, I'm knocking on menopause's door. So I'm probably more motivated than some to understand why so many women need solutions. And there really haven't been any real effective solutions out there for us. And I want to know what it is that we can do to thrive during this phase of life and beyond. So I want it also to be known that during this phase of my life, I'm feeling amazing. And I feel like I've reached a stage in my life where I can really step into the light and shine. I feel like I have a lot to contribute and a lot to enjoy still, and maybe even more so than I have in my past. And how many of us, think that this is going to be the way that life is at this stage? I think there's a really interesting hypothesis that's out there, and it's called the grandmother or wise woman hypothesis. Basically, what it talks about is how it's no accident that this transition happens during this time of our life when we are super capable. During this stage of life, during menopause, is when we are actually most useful to society. Wise women, which is how I like to think of this, or we can think as grandmothers, are actually the heart of humanity. If you think back to societies like the hunter-gatherer societies, did you know that only 3% of the food came from hunting and that the rest came from gathering? And grandmas are the primary gatherers. The younger women are having babies and they're caring for their young children. And so they're not as available to go out and do that gathering. So you better believe that those grandmas are respected and they're revered, and not just because of their wisdom, because I know a lot of times we think it's because of their wisdom, but it's also because of their capability. I think that we've lost this wisdom in our society to view women in this stage and beyond as valuable and necessary for thriving. So I want to do a quick overview on what happens as we transition into menopause. So I know I've talked about it on this podcast before, but let's just do a quick overview. First of all, there's different stages and phases of menopause. And the first one is perimenopause. Okay, so perimenopause happens in the years before menopause comes. Sometimes it's called premenopause. And it's when our ovarian function and our sex hormones are naturally declining. And this can last for a couple of years. Every woman is different. But these days, women are actually experiencing perimenopause much younger and for much longer than they used to. Some women even start perimenopause as young as 35 years old, but most women start around the age of 45. this is what happens. First of all, our progesterone, which is one of our major sex hormones, it starts to decline first. That's during those perimenopause phase. And that's what Herthrive helps with. It actually helps to support healthy progesterone production, and it helps to reduce that estrogen dominance, which can sometimes be the primary hormone imbalance that happens during this phase of life. Then, as you start going through the later phases of perimenopause, what happens is then now estrogen declines. And if it declines too fast, then the symptoms that we've talked about before happen, okay? Especially those hot flashes. Hot flashes are a true sign of low estrogen. Now, we get into menopause. And how do you know if you're in menopause? You are officially considered to be menopausal once you have gone 1 full year without a period, okay? And then you are postmenopausal after that. So the day after that year mark of having no period and then beyond, all of that for up to about 20 years is considered postmenopausal. So like we've talked about, as we grow older, our hormone levels just naturally shift. This is just how it works. We may experience fluctuations with our cycles, or we can experience those steep declines as we hit menopause. And that's when we really feel like we crash and burn. So what we want to see that this decline is happening more steadily. That's where Herthrive comes in. And now this is where Herthrive is going to come in. So these hormonal changes, they can lead to really uncomfortable and frustrating symptoms. I don't even need to say that. But things like I've mentioned, and things like also sleeplessness or mood swings or vaginal atrophy, hot flashes, we know, and even night sweats and things like that, but also changes in the appearance of our skin. All of these things are associated with this phase of life. But instead of seeing these symptoms as the absolute inevitable thing that happens to all of us, what I hope is that we can see them for what they are, that they're just simply our body's way of saying, I'm not getting what I need. What can help us through this stage of life? I'm going to talk so much about that in this episode because I think it's so exciting. I am very excited to introduce you to what is, I know, going to be a game changer for women out there. Just like Herthrive was, I formulated Herthrive several years ago, around the time that I formulated Herthrive. And since then, I've been diligently seeking and sourcing the most amazing and beneficial ingredients that are out there. The ingredients that have been chosen for Herthrive have the necessary nutrients that Mother Nature has always known that we women need to feel vibrant and healthy and sexy like the goddesses that we are. And so I want to share what some of these active ingredients are that are in Herthrive, because you may not have heard, especially of the first one I'm going to talk about. It's called Quao Crua root. And I know that's a mouthful, but you're going to get to know this amazing plant because it has magical powers. It's also known as Pueraria mirifica. So I'm going to talk a little bit about where this root came from. It's actually found in Thailand, and it is only found on this mountain range that is actually shaped like the shape of a woman, which is pretty cool, right? And so I don't know if any of you guys saw the movie about those soccer players that were trapped in the cave, and that mountain range that the caves were in, that's the actual mountain range where this plant is found. I think it's just a really cool coincidence that this mountain happens to be in the shape of a woman, because this ingredient is a miracle ingredient for us. Okay, radiant skin, long, silky hair, and youthful complexions. The beauty and vibrancy of Thai women are known all around the world. But this natural beauty doesn't just come from really good genes. What I've learned is that living in harmony with nature, and I know we talk a lot about that, and then benefiting from plant wisdom is part of the secret of these Thai women for living agelessly. That's because deep in the forest, surrounded by Thailand's largest mountains, there's an ordinary looking green, like climbing plant that's long been treasured for its potent youth restoring powers. This legendary plant is called Quao Crua. Its dried roots have been used in traditional Thai medicine for over 700 years. But while it's been widely used throughout Asia for centuries, we Westerners didn't discover this miracle maker until around the 20th century. Since that time, a number of published studies indicate that Quao Crua shows great promise in promoting youthfulness and vibrant health. And scientists continue to conduct studies on its rejuvenating powers for both women and also for men. The highly active Quao-Krua root extract, as well as maca root, which is also in Herthrive, and black cohosh. These are all the ones that we have that are main active ingredients in Herthrive. What they do is they provide very rich sources of powerful phytoestrogens. And these natural plant estrogens work with our body and not against it. Phytoestrogens have a lot of amazing qualities. And one of the things that they have is they have what's called an adaptogenic quality. So phytoestrogens, whether they're found in Quao-Krua or they're found in maca or black cohosh, all of them work by a process known as an adaptogenic situation. And what that means to be adaptogenic is like a very different action than the way prescribed Western medicine like hormone replacement therapy comes to help with promoting hormone balance. So let's say that a woman doesn't have enough estrogen in her system, like during perimenopause and menopause. An adaptogenic phytoestrogen will tonify, and then it lands on the cell receptors, and it helps her body feel that there is enough hormone available. And if, let's say, there is too much estrogen in her system, and this is interesting because the plant estrogen will act like a lock and key and will sit on the hormone receptors of her cells and make it seem like she has less. So you see how it can adapt to the needs, whether we have too much estrogen or whether we don't have enough. The ingredients in Herthrive are known as phytoprotective, and they are all adaptogenic. These ingredients work very different than the mammalian estrogen, which is like the regular estrogen that comes from an estrogen prescription or a hormone replacement therapy. Prescription estrogen lands on the alpha receptor of our estrogenic tissue, and it acts like a growth hormone. Plants have a totally different action. And what they do is they land on the beta estrogen receptors, and they are protective of excess stimulation by our hormones. So if our body doesn't feel like it has enough estrogen, the phytoestrogen will give the sense that there is enough, and its moisturizing and tonifying actions will take place. If we have too much estrogen, like I mentioned before, the phytoestrogens protect the tissue from overstimulation. So you can see that this is a very different approach than what Western medicine goes by. Herthrive supports our body's ability to be what it's meant to be, in perfect harmony and functioning at its best. I would love women to know that Mother Nature herself has provided medicines for us that are safe and natural and effective, and they can be found all over the world. But in this particular case, it seems to me that Mother Nature has come through with the plant known as Quao-Krua herself, because it is helping so many women maintain their moisture and their juiciness and their sex drive, and it helps them to sleep. And it's a wonderful addition to self-care for all women. Quao-Krua root is also known, it's in Thai, as the herb of rejuvenation, which is perfect because that's exactly what it does. Okay, so I know I've been talking a lot about Quao-Krua, but I want you to also know about the other amazing ingredients that are in Herthrive. I'm talking about maca root and black cohosh, which might feel a little more familiar with you. Both of these ingredients, or all three of these ingredients, are all known for their powerful phytoestrogens, and they stimulate the body's estrogen receptors, like I've just talked about, which help to manage menopausal symptoms and counteract the metabolic changes associated with lower estrogen too, which is a huge complaint of so many women at this age. I think it's exciting to know that these ingredients also help support healthy blood sugar balance, and they reduce inflammation, and they regulate hunger, and they reduce fat accumulation, which greatly supports improving insulin sensitivity through and beyond menopause. So I know you girls are going to be excited. Just know Herthrive is going to be released next week. It's going to be released on December 5th, 2023. And I'm so beyond excited, if you can't tell, to get it into all of your hands. Because like I said, Herthrive is going to be a game changer. And it's been a long time coming. We girls have needed this kind of support and this type of education for a long time because we have been lacking. I want to thank you girls for being a huge part of what we do here at Mixers and on the It's Her Time podcast. I love this community and I love our conversations. I love that we are a tribe of empowered women who are taking charge of our health and our happiness together. I love those of you that regularly tune in, and I especially love those of you that share these episodes with the girls in your life, because sharing is caring. And I know that we all care about each other and that we can all live our very best lives, especially showing up as our very best selves every single day during every single phase of our life. I hope you learned a lot today and that you're going to enjoy taking and benefiting from Herthrive. And I hope that you'll join us again next week because we'll have another episode of the It's Her Time podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and make sure that you also subscribe and like and leave a review on our podcast platforms. It helps us so much. It helps us to be able to get amazing guests. It helps us also to know what you love about the podcast and what you'd like to see more of. I want you girls to know that you're the best. And I hope that until next time that you have a very happy and healthy week.